Hola, hola, and buenos dias, GnGs. My name is Trekkw2ks, and welcome to another episode of Week in Crypto, brought to you here on the Gentleman of Crypto Network. In case you don't know, the basic idea is I cover crypto-related news stories that happen between Friday to Sunday, pop them out 08 Monday morning. Once in a while, I try to get the live thing in and actually do a 08 live. Much appreciation to the folks who tap in with me for the lives at 08 in the morning. I know y'all got things going on in life, and I appreciate y'all for taking the time. So it's mad crazy right now. I'm watching a video of Reggie just dropped a new video, and there's a story in here that I'm gonna cover. And y'all know I don't do price talk, but you know I'm gonna get into that in a minute. Housekeeping, right? So this segment is brought to you by CJ the Smart Guy. He is a CPA who focuses on individuals and businesses that are involved in crypto. And so, in case you didn't know, today is the last day for you to either file an extension or file your taxes. And I got a IRS tax story in here, as well as a Treasury story too. Point being is, yeah, the IRS is doing what it's going to do. As you see what the title is, the IRS is saying, you know, fuck around and find out to the public come this tax season. There's a whole thing behind that. And yeah, in full disclosure, he is my actual CPA. The other point to note is this isn't me telling you to use him specifically, but at least do your due diligence and research so you can understand how to compare and contrast who you pick and if they're actually a proficient and aware person and somebody who's actually been in the space for a while, so they know the ins and outs and the ups and downs of how this space has progressed over the last decade plus. And yeah, I don't get a kickback. It's nothing as a referral link and whatever, but that's that part. Now on to the next things of gratitude. Like I said, thank you to the folks who have been tapping in. Thank you to the folks who, even when I miss a week or so, y'all still come back. Thank you for the folks who are tapping in when I actually do the live, because I've missed and messed up on the weekend. And life is over here lifing for me as I imagine it is for you all who are hearing my voice or seeing this image, right? And so I appreciate the folks who take the time to listen to this content. I know I don't do price talk, but I know I say something that clicks and makes sense to someone somewhere out there. And that's the least that I can hope, that it gets you to start questioning more of how you're taking in this information and how you're looking to move through this space. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a lawyer. I've just been in the space for a while, as I say. So I got a number of stories, and like I said, IRS joint, a Treasury joint, of course, the CSAT stuff, no Binance stuff. I just stayed away from the Binance thing. I'll get into that in a minute. So let's get into these stories, y'all. All right, here we go. All right, so here we go, jumping into this first story. And this one kind of threw me off, especially because of one of the follow-up stories on this. So Tether's new non-custodial tokenization platform set to transform digital economy. Here's a thing that it basically boils down to. Tether is making a wallet, and they're saying it's non-custodial, which means that you're the one who's supposed to have control of it, and you're supposed to be able to put your Tether in there, as well as other types of tokens from other chains. Now, in my mind, IMM, hashtag IMM, I'm not 100% believing how groundbreaking they are talking this up to be. In part because of the level of centralization within Tether, as well as how they work hand in hand with law enforcement and governments. So it's like, wait, you're going to make a wallet that allows people to be financially independent with how they move their crypto and hold it and store it and spend it? It doesn't make sense to me. I'm just throwing it out there as this is them saying, hey, here's what we are putting out to the public because we believe that the public deserves a non-custodial version of a non-custodial wallet made by Tether. In my mind, everyone should control F, the terms of service, the privacy policy, and how all of that stuff is worded for what they can do on the back end and how they are allowed to. Case in point, look what Treasure did. Look what the other wallet, Treasure and Ledger did with their terms of service. So like now with Ledger, what is it, the live thing, if you've updated like more than once on the with the live part of it, you just can't go back to using the hard wallet without the thing unless you're really, really techie and know what you're doing. You can't just go back as a regular Joe person and use the ledger. Yeah, it's Ledger that does that. Treasure does some stuff too that in their updates. The point being is they're selling convenience, they're quote selling innovation. I don't believe it because of how centralized they are and how much of a, what's the word I'm looking for? How much of a key role they play in the illicit activities of things. If you look at the last 5 to 8 months and how many times Tether is mentioned in a hack, a scam, or some kind of conversion thing where someone did something illicit, it makes no sense to me why they would offer a non-custodial wallet when there's too many things that they're being the common denominator in when it comes to illegal activities or illicit activities in the financial sense in that realm. This doesn't make sense. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying I know I won't mess with it. I'm not telling y'all what to do because I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own due diligence and research, but I can definitely see issues with this down the road. That's just my thought process. This story came out of Cryptopolitan. We'll see what happens, right? All right, jumping off to this next one. This is what comes to the title of the episode, right? IRS is saying, well, okay, I put in the FAFO, okay? I put that part in. But it basically boils down to one of their officials said, hey, we've noticed that based on how we're talking to Chainalysis and how we're talking to the exchanges and what the exchanges are giving us, a sizable portion of the public is not confessing to how much crypto activity they're doing, hence how much money they owe us, right? Because now they claim they have authority to tax you on whatever it is you made if you did any type of, quote, taxable event. So in that, it gets into, we're going to start doing, what is the thing called, a Title 26? It is, yeah, Title 26. People are going to, a lot more folks are going to start getting charges called Title 26, which is basically like, hey, you didn't report what you have. So now you're probably going to get opened up for an audit. And then they're going to go through all the other stuff. And remember what I've been reporting on last year. The IRS won a lawsuit case where they can be investigating someone else. And if you did a financial transaction with them, they can then go and look into your stuff. And they don't got to tell you jack diddly, neither does the bank or any of the other financial institutions that they go to get your information. So guess what that means? Somebody could have really screwed up in how they were, crossing their T's and dotting their I's in relation to their financial activities. You sent them something on a wallet a minute ago, totally forgot about it. And now, guess what? You're now a part of the investigation. And somebody might be like, oh, well, that's really far-fetched. That shouldn't even happen. Here's what I know. There was a case that went to federal court last year, and someone argued, and this wasn't even a crypto-related thing. This was a traditional financial side of they did business with somebody at one point, or they had some kind of transaction in traditional fiat side stuff. They only happened to accidentally find out that they were under investigation because the bank said something to them. And then when they tried to say something to the IRS was like, well, we don't have to say nothing to you because you're not actually the main focus of the investigation. And then the judge was like, well, technically, the bank ain't even had to say nothing to you neither. So that's that. Just saying, y'all. It's gonna get funky out here. And then you got to think in a bigger context of, if we have all of these economic indicators that show us that CPI is going up, right? GDP is going down. The stock market and all the other ETF derivative stuffs is just a lot of smoke and mirrors. What do you think people are going to do if we're realizing that we don't have enough money to live off of this like smoke and mirrors thing of debts and derivatives? They're going to start figuring ways to either get money or hold on to what they have. So in short, this is the government saying we can't have this capital flight control. Like, start paying up. And here's the funky part of it. Here's the funky part. And I say this to somebody on the gang side. Like, y'all know it's X number of us in the Warriors group and stuff that is still gang affiliated. Oh, by the way, if you're a new person and you just finding, my stuff, the King and Zay stuff or whatever, and you hear us say gang, we're saying it in terms of like X number of us were military related or we somehow work somewhere within the federal government. That's what that means. I don't need nobody turning it around and be like, oh, he's talking about violence and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not. I'm not talking about it in that sense. But here's where I'm going with this. They're going to start running people's pockets to get them to pay a tax, extra tax, more tax in things that the American public isn't even in favor of. The whole blue and yellow flag thing, we're not in favor of that. A number of people aren't in favor of that anymore. The flag with the star on it, that's another situation that we're not in favor of. This is the public sentiment I'm talking about, not what the government is doing. I'm going off on a tirade. I apologize. My point is, money's going to go into things that the public is not agreeing with. And they're going to do other things as far as the government, because we're in the election cycle, the election season. And so on one hand, you're going to have the government try to do things that make it seem like everything is okay, and they're not going to tell you how messed up things are, as well as the shenanigans that they're doing in other places that don't work out in our favor, right? But at the same time, on the other side of it, they're going to do things to basically run your pockets. So, oh, you got that bonus this year? Guess what? Taxes went up. Your property taxes went up. The cost of food went up. Your medical expenses went up. Your insurance went up. Like, now the government wants more taxes. All of that is happening while they're still telling you, no, it's not raining cats and dogs outside. Like, it's rainbows and sunshine. That's what's going on. Yo, shout outs to my content cousins, the Simonson family. They definitely get into some topics that get more into that whole thing of like how looking at the government, the economy, the bigger picture outside of like the states and stuff. Folks, y'all got to start questioning a lot more things in my opinion. But again, I'm not telling you what to do. You live in your life how you live it. This is going to happen. You're going to start hearing this thing later on this year, if not heavy in next year. You know what's funny? Bet. Here's where I'm going to go with this as a indicator, right? Pardon. Sorry. So indicator. It has been put in public notice. The IRS is realizing that a number of people are going to do some level of tax avoidance. And so that falls under Title 26 for the tax code and how they get to claim, hey, we can go after you. It's not going to happen within this year because we're going into the elections in November. So what they'll end up doing is waiting until we get past the elections, and then it's going to drop on everyone. They're going to try to get all of the people that they can get. And that mainly means it's going to be the regular, everyday, average Joe Schmo who doesn't have the legal prowess or the bank account size to be able to fight the IRS at any level. That's my take on how this is going to play out later on. Because you got to remember, the exchanges are telling on you. Most people aren't doing anything near privacy level stuff to where it can't be traced to who they are in real world. So, pardon me, after November, going into winter, is going to get crazy for how much folks are going to get caught up in these Title 26 violations. And I'm going to leave that one there. Do your own due diligence and research. That's just my idea. If you disagree with me, hey, comments is open. As I say, we don't delete the comments, but we do keep the receipts. So if you think I'm just talking on my ass, I welcome it. Jumping on to this next one. All right. Mempool founder Monunaut raises red flags over Bitcoin Layer 2 implementations. So I'm not saying this to you as, oh, I'm promoting Bitcoin number one, blah, 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 blah. I'm prefacing this with, do your own diligence and research if you are a Bitcoin maxi. If you are not a Bitcoin maxi and you are like, oh, well, this Bitcoin thing kind of sounds interesting because the halvening is happening and the ETF and, I could, chase the bag. Do your own diligence and research again is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into the technical of it, but I am bringing up the point about this in that there are two concerns that come out of this article. One is the whole thing about how the scalability works by them doing things where they're taking transactions off main chain. Some folks are going to argue that's a security issue. Some folks are going to be like, well, no, we're doing it in a very secure way, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Bitcoin is going to go through its growing pains. And you're going to have the people who are like maximalist or like the purist. There we go. Purist versus the like, well, we need to grow and mature and we need to have it be like what Ethereum, or like we need to get it to where it can do stuff like Solana and blah, 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 blah. I'm not telling you which side of the fence to be on. I'm just pointing out that Bitcoin, the Bitcoin protocol, not Bitcoin Jesus' version, not Craig Wright's version, this version of Bitcoin is going to go through its growing pains. And this particular layer 2 thing is a part of that. I'm not also saying this to you as to look at, quote, mempool and be like, oh, this is the way to go. Mempool's a thing. I don't even know what mempool's about. I promise you I don't. But the idea that we're more than 10 years later, Bitcoin is technically a teenager right now, and we're now getting to some levels of like, all right, let's figure out how we can do some kind of smart contract function on this, because that's another implementation with this thing, with the layer 2 thing. Do your due diligence and research, because I imagine once the halvening hits, the scams are gonna just be on a windfall, right? From whatever thing you're on, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on YouTube, you're on IG, you're on Facebook, the scams are going to be all over the place telling you that mempools and what they're doing in layer 2 is going to be the best thing since sliced bread. And a number of folks are going to fall for it. And it's just going to be what it's going to be. Like, if you did not do your due diligence and research, if you're not somebody who is like, let me pay attention to the devil in the details, arguably, the set it and forget it is not where Bitcoin is right now, arguably. I mean, aside from if you're just doing the basics of DCAing, which is dollar cost averaging in, and I'm not saying this is financial advice, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of what set and forget really means, or like how it can work, if you're not doing one of the most basic things of just like running a miner, which even in that regards, like that's not even set and forget, right? Arguably, we're not in a set and forget phase of things when it comes to Bitcoin. Those of you who are interested, you will do your own diligence and research. I just throw out the thing of be leery of these layer 2, 3 things because they're going to go through their growing pains. Next story. All right, so C-State fraud victims seek government aid in recovering 61,000 BTC seized by UK. What is that? UK. Wait, where did it go? Oh, there we are. UK law enforcement. Now, I think this is the story that I think it is. I covered it a couple weeks ago. A lady in UK was basically charged with money laundering, and what she was doing. This is at core. This is a capital flight story, because what was going on was she was being the middle person. Her and another partner were being the middle person to help folks who are in the sea state maneuver their capital outside of the country. And they were doing it through Dubai and through London, the UK. Shout out to the Mansdom, right? And so I'm assuming this is the same one I had covered a couple weeks ago. So now the folks who are a part of it are turning around and be like, oh, we got scammed. We didn't know. Listen, man. Yo, it's funny how greedy people can be sometimes. And the basic issue is that now this capital is caught up within legal activity, and the UK government is like, well, we're gonna, which is weird to me in regards to, if they caught the lady, wouldn't they already have had positive control of the funds when they caught her, because she would have given it up? And I said this, if this is the same particular story, when this came out, I said, this is weird. If she had this much capital in terms of cryptocurrencies, she's just a cog in the wheel for somebody else. And so I think the bigger thing to me, at least, is who was she moving stuff for? And how bold-faced are y'all to turn around and be like, yo, we didn't know. We need to get our money back, though. Or we need to get our crypto back. I'm really wild. So basically, they went to the UK government and was like, hey, you shouldn't seize our stuff. You should give it back to the people who were quote, thinking this lady was doing a legitimate business. We didn't know she was a fraudster or a scammer. She wasn't frauding or scamming people. She was literally being the front person to move the capital out of the C state and then put it into traditional financial vehicles. So properties, she was investing in stuff. She was buying physical things, cars, luxury jewelry, like things like watches. If you know anything about what's going on in Latin America, as far as Argentina and Venezuela and like, Panama and stuff, like that's what's going on down there now. You buy that tier top rollie, you get on a plane, you go over to the next country, and then you sell it. That's how you get your capital out of the system. I'm not telling nobody what to do. I'm just saying, in my mind, this is a capital flight control story. People were moving a high amount of capital out of the system through this lady and her partner. They got caught, and now they're trying to turn around and saying they got scammed. The audacity of these folks is mind-blowing to me, how greedy some people will be. But yeah, so they go to the government and say, hey, you should give us back our stuff. The government's like, nah, it's an illegal proceeding. And now they're trying to plead to the home country to be like, yo, you should tell the UK to give us back our crypto. No word in regards to how the home country is looking at it. Like, I don't know about that. And I didn't do any digging to actually look into like local UK news versus like local C-state news to see if this is even a blip on the radar. But I've been saying for more than a year now, they've literally been putting in the legal framework for how they deal with cases, whether they're financial business cases or property cases around cryptocurrencies. So I imagine the story will pop up again, but I don't see it being in favor of the people who petitioned, pardon me, for this. I don't see it being in their favor. If anything, the government's going to confiscate it and then be like, all right, we're going to charge you for the activity we had to do to get it back. Next story is, all right. So this story, this is, all right. Sorry, man, the allergies is like acting up now. So U.S. Treasury, our state, turns to Tether, USTD, to evade sanctions. Okay, remember what I said in the top of this was that how does it make sense that Tether is able to control their tokens, right? Free stuff, reverse stuff, trace stuff, all of that stuff, right? So you're telling me that this, quote, government, because we're saying we're giving it as the nation state's name. We're not saying that there's bad actors. We're not saying that there's individuals. We're saying that this country's government is using this stable coin to avoid sanctions. Yet this government has spent more than a year, 2 years, because I've been covering the stories for how long, in how they are setting up their legal framework between their national banks, their regional banks, as well as the regulatory stuff and the policy makers of how they will regulate and enforce KYC within the crypto space, as well as how they will have mechanisms in place to be able to confiscate your crypto and then sell it on the same exchange that you're holding it at. But you're telling me that this is the same country that's using this particular token to avoid sanctions. It don't make sense when you really start getting to the devil in the details. It don't make sense. So what is this? What are we trying to be? What are they trying to inform us about here on Crypto Potato? Honestly, bullshit. This is fear mongering. This is Western fear mongering in the sense of, hey, and remember what I said the other thing about like how is it that Tether is the common denominator in all of these quote illicit activities, but yet they're going to turn around and make a non-custodial wallet and just like give up all control? Like, how that makes sense? And again, like you're putting it with the boogeyman over there, that's the R state, and going, well, they're using this tool. They're using this financial instrument called Tether, which is over here as an American company. How is this even making any sense? The only way it makes sense is you're trying to do something to fearmonger the people to be like, oh, either Tether's complicit or Tether is questionable. So you're messing with Tether's market stability and use case, right? Their utility. And then at the same time, you're using it as a scapegoat to ask the regulators for more overreach in the financial sector. which is just what the article covers, because he was talking before one of the subcommittees, and then like Elizabeth Warren jumps in on some stuff, and it's the whole thing of making the point of like, hey, we need to have more ability to be able to get into these financial institutions and be able to check these different businesses and countries, blah, 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 blah. That's basically what he argued. And I remember when I seen him at some event in DC. I can't remember what the event was. And I seen it and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. We're going to start using sanctions in a way that doesn't make sense because the volume of money that's being pushed through that, it isn't enough to do anything. Okay. If you've not been paying any attention to how the economy for this targeted country has been going, the bottom line is what we're telling people here in the States about how effective these sanctions are is total crap. It's not working the way it's being sold to the American public. We have people in leadership who are taking actions on, quote, our behalf and, quote, with our invested interest that are not effective. Now, I'm not over here saying, oh, well, we should do something more effective, like, destroy something or like take more aggressive action. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just making the point of there are people in leadership who are doing things that are not actually helping the American people, and as well as enforcing, let's say, policies and concepts that on the bigger scale really just make us as a country look stupid. That's my personal opinion. Personal opinion. Not necessarily the gang opinion, but the personal opinion. I throw this story out there to say, expect to hear more stuff, and take into account what you're going to have happen is there's going to be here's how we put out these tidbits to the American public to make us seem bigger, stronger, and better, and to make the enemy, the other, those over there to be weird, to be the outskirt, to be it's dangerous, it's questionable, it's a us against them dynamic. And so with that, it's like they gaslighting the American public, y'all. It's the bottom line of it. They gaslighting the American public, and a lot of folks are buying it. That's the sad part that gets me, because if you don't actually pay attention to outside news, or at least people who are bringing up what's going on the ground and in reality, it's very, very much the opposite of what our government officials are telling us as the American public. That's the funky part. And I guess we'll see how this works out come November. Bottom line. All right. Next one. Minister of Justice of the country with the highest earnings in cryptocurrencies after the US and the UK made a statement. Will they ban cryptocurrencies? So basically, Vietnam is like, hey, we don't have the regulatory sandbox set up to be able to go after folks. That's the bottom line of what it is. But as I said, I think it was the last live, like what you're seeing happening is more countries are going to start getting bolder as for how they start going after the space. Whether you're talking about the miners, whether you're talking about the traders, whether you're talking about the exchanges, or any of the offshoot companies that are related to this thing we call the blockchain industry or the crypto industry or whatever, right? More countries are going to start stepping up their regulatory side and law enforcement side, because why? They want to get their cut too. Look at what Nigeria is over there doing to Binance's folks. Now they talking about they traced the dude over to Kenya, and they trying to get the other guy that ran to Kenya extradited back to Nigeria. Like, and that was off of their regulators being like, yo, somebody needs to come and stand before us and talk about these illicit activities that you seemingly allow to be passed through your exchange. Other country regulators are going to run that same game. If you have it where a state, New York AG, decided to check, I think, 2 or 3 different exchanges that weren't even American exchanges. Like, I've been saying this for a while, and I don't think people understand. Like, yes, there's a thing of like, we're in the gang position, we can do X, Y, and Z. But there's this other part of, you get to a point where you do it so much, and then, what does it do as I say, not as I do? And then when the power dynamics shift, which is what's going on right now, what you then have happen is, well, guess what? A country that 5 years ago wouldn't have even thought to say nothing is now like, you know what? I feel like I could do this. Hence Nigeria. Hence Vietnam. Hence, what was that? Panama or Paraguay? that just did something the other day. I'll give you another example of something. The other day, this is non-crypto related. Ecuador did a raid on a Mexican embassy in Ecuador. Like, broke down the door, pointed guns at embassy people, ambassadors and employees and everything, mushed folks out of the way, and snatched up the Ecuadorians that were inside and took them off to wherever, who knows. There were X number of other embassy-related events that happened weeks and years before that. And this is what I'm saying as a trend and as an indicator and as a pattern. You see these little indicators here and there happening. Eventually it turns into, oh, this is a trend. Like more and more, countries, companies, individuals, entities, nation states are doing this thing. Oh, well, now this is the official pattern. This is that example of more nation states, their regulators are like, hey, we need to crack down on this thing, in part because we want to get the money out of it, and in part we need to figure out how to slow down the capital flight that could happen. Hence what the C state does. Hence what X number of the Latin American countries are doing. Hence what Nigeria is doing. Hence what some of the European countries are doing. Because the capital flight control is a real thing. Anywho, I'm ranting. Jump off to this next story. You're gonna start hearing more story about Vietnam with that, basically. Now, this story right here is called 2 backed gold cryptocurrencies to invest in as demand skyrockets. Now, there is a reason that I bring this story up. This is on Finbo, right? And what got me with this is, I'm not even going to name who the cryptocurrency things are. This is literally Reggie Middleton's Veritasium. This is literally that. And only funky part is, you can't actually call for delivery of the physical asset with these 2 particular tokens or currency things that they name in this thing. If you're interested in this, do your own due diligence. The link for this will be in the description. My point is, I saw the caption and I was like, wait, what? And then I read through a little bit and I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, nobody wanted to promote when Veritasium was doing this the way it was doing it. But now all of a sudden it's okay to, oh yeah, go back crypto. Like, it's a thing and it's official. And y'all are years behind. And everyone's going to act like this is innovative and brand new and this is a secure thing and blah, 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 blah. I'm just saying, I think respectfully, y'all should give Reggie his flowers on this one because he called this one early and he made the what do they call it? The proof of concept was verified and executed years ago, before C19, y'all. All right, I'm frustrated. I just wanted to throw that one out there. I'm not even reading through on that. Next one. SEC breaks past policy guidelines on Uniswap crackdown. So that's my whole thing about how SEC is bringing the smoke to Uniswap's door. Bottom line is capital flight control. They're now going, oh, well, yeah, we know we said these things on public record before, but now it's like, we know we said DeFi is like not able to be controlled and it's decentralized and like that. I think they were just biding the clock. I honestly think the SEC was just biding the clock. And there was something that Uniswap did a couple of weeks back. And I was like, well, what the hell? Why would y'all do that? No. Well, okay. They did something where they took off, like, you couldn't use one of the things as a derivative backer or something like that. And I don't know if that was related to this, because I imagine this situation has been going on for a couple of months as far as the SEC first initially reaching out, being like, hey, we got this question for y'all. Can somebody come in and talk to us? And then be like, yo, so based on what we see with how your exchange works, this, might blah, blah, blah. Again, indicator. Is this going to be the smoking gun to start going after all of the decentralized exchanges within the American jurisdiction? Might be. Because I honestly don't know what Uniswap's volume is or trade activity is compared to everybody else that claims to be a decentralized exchange. But this might be them on the exit. Because, all right, so when I first read this, the thought was like, oh, so the revenue model quote is being artificially stamped out. Because now they're going to come in and be like, all right, well, we got to put some guidelines on how y'all are doing stuff, which means for the people who were the early investors and the backers of Uniswap, like the founder and stuff and whatever, but the people behind them, oh, all right, well, hopefully to say they got at least 75% or more of their investment out already. And this isn't me saying it's a guarantee, but my thought process was this. If the government is coming in now, it means that the amount of revenue that the backers, like they're part of the, hey, you got to pay us back this amount for how much we invested, is not going to be the same going forward. Because once they start sniffing and, you know, changing how they're talking, the SEC, we see how it's played out for everybody else. And if you are a company that is, quote, looking to survive or stand forth, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to close your doors, right? Shut up the business, or you're going to kowtow and be like, you right, all right, like here's your couple million, and we're going to change the, you know, the rules on this, and this, which means you're not going to make the same amount of money as before, which means your business model is going down because now you're not competitive anymore. You're not the place to be. That's at least my thought process. I could be totally wrong on how this plays out for them. It might work out better than some folks expected, right? I don't know. I could be wrong. If you disagree, I'm in the live chat. Say what you're going to say, all right? Next one. Severe impact expected for miners with outdated hardware in upcoming Bitcoin halving. So Bitcoin halving is like, what, less than a week or so away. The bottom line in this story is they're saying, hold on. Excuse me. They're basically saying if you're a mom and pop level miner, you know, basement miner, a backyard miner, you're on the farm somewhere, the basic idea is you are not going to be able to compete with the newer miners that are being put out there. So like that's like the Bitminer, the Antminer, like what is it, S21 now, I think they're at. And I can tell you one thing I know for 100% fact is happening in the States. There are folks who are buying old industrial locations or like open land areas that come with the power control agreement, and they're setting up facilities and then doing non-committal contracts to renting out the new miners. I know 100% for a fact that is happening. So, in my mind, yes, a number of the smaller, you know, indie solo miner folks are going to get. If you're looking at it from I'm chasing a bag, I want my crypto, I want my Bitcoin. Yes, you're part of what you're going to get out of it, especially if you're not doing a pool or anything like that, or you're only doing like your 5, what is that, like S10s or whatever, you know, pool in your basement, compared to a 500 a 500 miner facility space, or like even the up to 1,000 place. Yeah, you're definitely going to get crushed if you're looking at it from the standpoint of I need to get the most reward, versus the folks who are looking at it going, well, I just want to be a part that is securing the network, which arguably the more mom and pop folks are at the part of I'm looking to secure the network, and a reward is like a plus, right? And I'm specifically talking about Bitcoin. I'm not talking about none of the other proof of work stuff or proof of stake stuff, whatever. Specifically talking about Bitcoin. The other thing to note is I think that within this decade, for this halving that's coming, something is going to come along beside ordinal stuff, besides god damn, what's the name of the other thing that we could do with the sidechain stuff? I can't remember the word right now, but I think that there will come a point where there is something else that will work as another utility that will allow for some type of monetization. I haven't been paying attention like that, so I don't even know what's going on the horizon right now. I have nothing on my radar besides what's going on with the ordinal stuff. But I think something else will come up in this decade. And arguably, it might be the thing that revitalizes getting the mom and pop level miners to grow back into space, right? Granted, there is also the other part of like the folks who are just being the bag chasers that are doing these huge facilities. They could just get crushed out because of the regulatory side of the space for what's going on. Again, as I said, and how many other episodes, the Biden dog whistle set the federal, set the state, set the county, and set the city to be like, okay, these 4 levels are going to start coming up with different ways to go after the mining sector. Everybody who want to argue that whole EV green stuff, whatever with that, I'm just saying, I note that Some states are doing things in favor of mining, while other states, other cities, other counties are doing things that are not in favor of mining. And so that's how this decade will proceed. Virginia actually had something on the table last month or the month before that was more geared towards like the small size miner folks. Don't know where that went, but I imagine at some point that will pop back up in the news cycle going forward in this year. Yeah, so the bottom line about this article, you can read through it. There's a couple other articles I've seen talking about like the whole like, well, you know, what the halvening means and how the focus is on the bigger players and what the losing side is going to be the mom and pop folks, because the bigger players are going to be using the more energy efficient as well as hash rate efficient newer miners, which cost way more. I seen something that said like an S9 was like $120 on eBay or something. I said, you straight lying right now. If you buying an S9 for 100, you know what? Let me not. I'm not going to go off on that tangent. Here's what I know. There is definitely going to be a distinction between KYC Bitcoin and non-KYC Bitcoin. So dirty Bitcoin is going to be the stuff that's KYC'd, and then clean Bitcoin is going to be the stuff that you got fresh off the miner. I'm not talking about the big company facility stuff. I'm talking about the mom and pop size folks. There's going to be a distinction at some point. I haven't seen it yet really get into the how am I saying this? I haven't seen it in the news cycle, but because of other conversations that I've been having over the last like year and change, I know that at a certain point that is going to be a distinction between what's considered the dirty Bitcoin, which is going to be the KYC stuff, and then what's going to be considered the clean stuff. It might be given another name, but at some point this is going to come up. Anywho, jumping over to this next and last story. What is restaking and how to restake Ethereum to boost rewards? I'm not going to get into the name of this particular Ethereum thing. Why I bring this story up is because they're basically working to make methods that allow for the we're going to call this crypto velocity. If you know what the phrase of money velocity is, it's like, well, how is the money moving within an ecosystem? How many times, how long does it stay within a neighborhood, or how many, or where does it go when it like goes to the store, and then the store, when they do their collection up, they go to the bank then does what with it? So the idea of, well, we need to do things that work where the money isn't just sitting still. Cross that over into, we need to find ways to do something with staked cryptocurrencies. In particular, this article is talking about Ethereum. Link for this is in the description. You can do your own due diligence and research. I'm going to say it again. Do your own due diligence and research of this. Because even in just my little basic screening through on this article, my first thought was just like, wait, so what happens if somehow the contract gets liquidated or violated in some manner, and you restaked it somewhere? What happens then? Like, how? And in my mind, that's just more of a when versus an if. But that's my thought process. You don't got to agree with me, right? I say this all the time. Do your due diligence and research. So the point of where to go with this is, this is going to be a thing because we got the ETF stuff going on. The halvening is coming. Folks are going to be looking for other ways to not just have their crypto sit in one place. They're going to want to have it act like how traditional fiat acts when you put it in a bank, or when a bank has X amount of capital and they're like, oh, well, we need to do other things with it. We loan it out, right? We reinvest it in this thing. We get our payback. This is the same thing that's going on here in terms of like mechanism and concept, but they're calling it restaking. It's going to have issues. There's going to be hacks. There's going to be scams. I'm just throwing this out as the warning. You don't got to listen to me, but as the warning. I'm not saying you're not going to make a bag somewhere. I'm just saying it's going to have growing pains in it. And arguably, this is that whole, we got to do the derivative, the flip, the whole, it just can't sit still. That leads into the whole, like, it's a debt-based economy. Like, it's a debt-based financial instrument that's trying to be pushed as a mainstream thing within the crypto space. You don't got to agree with me. I'm not telling you to agree with me. I'm not telling you like, don't do this. Do what you feel comfortable with. I'm not the financial advisor. I'm not the lawyer. I'm not the CPA. But my guy, CJ, the smart guy is, and that's who this segment is brought to you by, okay? Actual CPA who knows the stuff about the rules and regulations of the IRS and this crypto stuff. Not saying you have to use them. Just, hey, if you're in this American jurisdiction, you know, cross your T's and dot your I's. And so, yeah, this is a thing. If you know about it, you know about it. If you don't, I mean, in my mind, it ain't the worst thing to not know about it. But that's the last story I got for y'all. I'm sorry, my allergies is like acting up, y'all. Seasons is changing. Yo, did y'all see the eclipse thing? What was that, last Monday? I think it was last Monday. Anywho, throwing that out there. I did my house cleaning as far as CJ and stuff, but other things to say is, so I finally turned on my channel, but for some reason, my videos when I do the live stream are not saving over on that channel. But I say all of that to say, if y'all could give me a subscribe over there, I would appreciate it. The link is in the description. If you do the search for it, it is literally just Trekkw2ks. And yeah, but I'm gonna still be doing, when I do the lives, I'm gonna do the lives over here on the Gentleman of Crypto because I'm just used to this side of it. But I'm gonna be uploading a bunch of like old interviews and other stuff that I've done, and then some other ideas that I have for stuff that I want to do over on my channel. I just haven't worked it all out yet, but I got enough stuff to upload for a good while. I promise on that. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Hopefully everybody's having a good Monday. Hopefully you do your stuff on time as far as like, did you file for your extension today? Did you already file your taxes? You cross your T's and dot your I's, because remember what I said about the IRS in the beginning. Other than that, as I say, have a productive over busy day. If it cannot be a productive over busy day, at least be in a safe space, in a safe place, and with good company, right? From one human to the next, that is the best that I can wish you. Other than that, y'all, one.